Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 1, Episode 3 of Death and Other Details. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, first and foremost, I like that opening. Once again, it's that, I'm telling the same story for a third time, but giving you through different eyes. Kind of giving you a little more insight into Danny as he was playing the role of Keith. It's like, right, he was meant to be to disarm you, make you not see him for who he was. It was meant to underestimate you, and obviously that was kind of a superpower of his, and it didn't cost much, except in this case it cost him his life. And so we get a little more time with Hilde. Turns out my assumption was wrong. I was thinking like, I wonder, does Hilde and Rufus have a past connection? No, he knows about her style of being like, you're kind of you want things kind of simple. You want the investigation, just it takes you where it takes you. You're not the type to care about long-winded theories and stuff like that. You only care about the facts. As she kind of talks about it, it's like most cases, like 9 out of 10 are like just the meat and potatoes. And he's like, well, what about the 10th one? She's like, yeah, it's just the potatoes. But it's like, yeah, like their style as detectives are a little different. He likes to craft a lone theory. She doesn't. She just follows the facts as they are, which he does too, but they just have two different processes with the same end result, And at the Eva Rufus saying, yeah, only one of us can be right at the end, and we'll see who is. Because Rufus is doing everything he can not to help Hilde too much, because he has certain information. Some of that information will lead to Imogen being the number one suspect, and once again, they've already been through this like in episode 1 of like, we gotta handle this in a certain way because you'll be the first one to get thrown under the bus, because Hilde will most likely look at you and not, because everything points to you. You were in the victim's room. You also trying to delete the security footage. To be fair, it was deleted beforehand, but that's her word against, no one else's, so it doesn't really work in her favor. Luckily, it works out because Jules covers for her, because he does have an alibi. It's Imogen, but I guess he doesn't want to, he could probably lose his job for fraternizing with one of the guests, so maybe that's why he's not saying anything, because also it's like, because it's protecting him, but because it doesn't even protect him, it screws him over, because he gets rid of his alibi, but he knows like maybe Imogen isn't a good enough alibi. Well, because he already knows that. It's like, you went in there to delete some footage. So by protecting her, he's throwing himself under the bus. But it's also because he's somewhat protecting her too. Because I don't think he thinks she's the killer. But I think he just, whatever it is that he's up to. Because as we find out later on in the episode, well, we already knew that he had the passports and everything. But we find out he's got a long criminal record. What that record necessarily is about, who knows? If is it just a con man or what? Why did he want to get on this boat specifically? I'm wondering if there's some kind of connection between him and Layla. Is he working with Layla or for Layla? Because it could be a thing of Layla needs someone like a whoever Jules really is. Maybe needs someone like him to do some dirty work for her. Because we don't know what Layla's whole thing is, but at one point, Imogen followed her as she picked up some rope and tape. If you notice, we still hadn't seen the lawyer all episode. The last time we saw him, he was in a closet. We just didn't know whose closet he was in. But when Tripp was smashing up his room, he was reacting like he could hear it or like it was nearby. So that's why I was wondering, there's no way he's in Tripp's room. So is he in someone else's room that's just nearby that's connected to Tripp's room? I don't know. But I'm like, that's the only reason why I could understand her having rope and tape. Because I thought that was some kinky stuff. Because if you notice, once again, he already had those markings. So I'm like, because Rufus noticed them like early on last episode. And I was like, so that is that your kink or something? Because Anna's trying to get in contact with him the entire episode. But she can't. So is he still ball gagged and tied up? Like, why would she need more rope? She needed a knife to access this secret compartment, like the door that leads down. But I was wondering, if she got the rope and tape, because is it for someone else? It seems so coincidental that he was literally tied up with rope, and she's getting some did you cut him free? Once again, because he was already free beforehand, so maybe she had to cut him free before, now had to get more rope, and now she's having to do it a third time. that's where I'm like, is that where Jules comes into play? Is he helping you in that regard? Are you pumping the lawyer for information? Or like I said, is this his kink? Or is it his kink and now you're using it against him? Or was it never a kink situation? They just let him go so he could be questioned by Rufus, but they have him on a tight leash. Once again, I don't know if that's the kink side of it or whether there's them trying to get something from him. Also seems like Jules has, from based on that picture, looks like that was a twin brother, but I don't know if it's like hey, the brother on the far end who's by himself, like, is that Jules? Or is it the one that's standing by the woman? Is that their sister? Is that his sister-in-law? Is that his actual girlfriend? Like, once again, we don't know which one is the Jules that's standing in front of us. Maybe just, because he's talked about having lost his parents, so that could send you down a bad road. So could it be that maybe something happened to his brother too, and maybe that's why he's up here? Like, maybe he's kind of got a similar beaten path like Imogen does. Like, she's trying to connect all of this to her mom's murder, so maybe he's doing something similar. I don't know. A lot of questions in the Jules department, and also what Layla's been up to. Like, it has to be related to him because, like I said, the lawyer dude was not in the entire. Like, the only time we saw him was at the beginning when he was interacting with Danny in the opening of the episode. That's about it. That's the only time we saw him was in a flashback. We haven't seen him present day since we saw him last episode being tied up. So, and Layla was going most of the episode lying to Anna that she was going to be by the pool, but she wasn't. So, which Anna's already got a lot to deal with. She's got to deal with her wife being the way she is. Like, right, tearing apart all the pillows, can't really sleep, stressed out on that part. You can't even get any relaxation, in your relationship because that's stressful enough. Plus, you've got the whole deal with the Chuns kind of imploding. The only silver lining to it is Eleanor, which that's also a complicated thing, working with your ex who still wants you and says you should have waited for her, but you're like, I did, but you're the one that left. She's like, I would have followed you all the way to Shanghai. I was wrapped around your finger. I would have gone anywhere in the world for you. I would have done anything for you, but you left, and I cried for 6 months. It's like, wait, you cry? It's like, yeah, but only when I get drunk. And it's like, well, she's kind of making it seem like, but yeah, I there's still something here, but from Anna's perspective, it's like your timing is shit, Eleanor, and I severely mean that. It's like, you wait till I'm like married, and yeah, things aren't great, and you kind of popping back in my life. And I mean, I'm just not. Well, I can't even say popping back up because they were already in business like months and months ago, obviously, because we saw a flashback where Anna was going to take Imogen to go see Layla. It's like, right, but just don't have your phone around her. Say like you left it in the car or whatever. But she was already on the phone with Eleanor. At least that was the first time. That was the first time Imogen was aware of it. Maybe they had been in contact a little bit longer than that. It's interesting too because I wondered this previously. Had they had an affair recently? Like, had they not seen each other since they broke up? Or have they had an affair? Because Anna's mom, Catherine, said, if there's one thing my daughter's good at, it's keeping a secret. I'm like, what secret is she keeping? I mean, I was about to say, like, not unless it's about Layla's condition, but I'm like, I mean, yes, the family knows about it, but does the greater world know about it? It's like, well, the people on the ship do know about her. I don't know, proclivities is not the right word. It's like her peculiarities, I can't say that, as Teddy referred to it as in the first episode. So they know. So I doubt it's a secret about Layla, but it feels like it had to be a secret about herself. Not unless it's about the business side of things, but it's like, is that really much of her keeping a secret as much as like that's just her doing good business by not letting the wolves know that you're down and out, that or rather letting the sharks know that there's blood in the water, so it might be an affair situation. Like, not unless people don't know. That could be a secret. Maybe people don't know. Well, because I was about to say no, because I'm sorry. Like, I had that double conversation in my head of like, sometimes I completed the response to something I was thinking in my head rather than not actually saying it. The thing I was thinking was, could it be about her and Eleanor ever being in a relationship? But it's like, no, it's not much of a secret if Imogen knows as well. So you'd assume it's something that Imogen wouldn't know, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I mean that kind of showcases there's a lot she could be keeping a secret about, but the question is, who is it a secret from? When it seems like there's a lot of stuff that could be secrets or public enough knowledge to her family and other people, then I'm like, what could the secrets be that Catherine was referencing? Because we find out Catherine has a little secret of her own. Her and the priest are hooking up. Which I wondered if that was her. I thought it was being crazy because I noticed on the security footage it was the priest with a blonde, and I was like, Catherine's like the only blonde other than Imogen, and obviously it wasn't her because she was obviously getting it on with Jules at the time. But I was like, no, it can't because it looked different from behind, and like I said, I got a quick glance at it, but I was like, I don't know what's going on there. But it's like, yeah, they're having a torrid affair. She's like, my marriage is kind of already over. Is it one of those things of your husband already knows is over or he doesn't know is over? Especially considering we know that she's able to forge his signature too. So is that her, like, what is she planning? Like, I wonder, did she forge his signature on the divorce papers? I mean, that wouldn't be legally binding and it wouldn't work out. So she's got some business things that she's doing. Not unless she's secretly signing some stuff over to herself before the divorce goes down. Like, yeah, forcing his signature to transfer funds or whatever, so when she gets out of the relationship, because there might be a prenup in place. So because the family business is his. His is he's the collier of the family, so it's like she married into it, so it's probably a situation of there's probably a prenup in place, so she probably forged his signature to sign off on some stuff, like making sure she's able to get out of this marriage with some liquidity, especially considering how liquidity driven the family funds currently are. A lot of possibilities. What's interesting too is the conversation between the priest and the governess, Alexandra. They were talking, and obviously it's like the priest, his son, is like, oh yeah, he's posting on TikTok. But she brought up an interesting point. She was like, a lot of stuff, basically, like, there's a lot of stuff beneath the surface. Like, yeah, he might be on TikTok acting like everything's fine, but kids take in a lot of stuff. She references like a time before, the summer before she was in 6th grade. Everyone was outside. It was hot. And she remembers a guy she knew, what was it, Marcus, getting popped in the back 3 times. And no one on the street said anything, to the point his murder's still unsolved to this day. And for her, that was the moment she decided she wanted to put away the bad guys. And I think, to get into powerful positions, to change it up, to change the system, to change things from the inside, to do good, you might have to make some shady dealings with some people like the Colliers. And so for her, the reason why she's bringing this all up is because I figured as much, that she had no correlation or connection with like the killer, of like why because she even told Trip last episode, it's like, right, me sending that bar cart was not what you think it is. The reason why she sent it, because I was like, I didn't know what the reasoning for that was, but it turns out her people got a call from someone from the super PAC, they don't know who, that said like, hey, get in good with Keith, and because of that, so whoever it was is most likely the killer setting this all in motion, because the killer used the bar card. Once again, we're running with that theory. It hasn't been 100% confirmed. That's been Imogen's theory that they've kind of run with, that's the only way in the Keith's room. I don't think it is. I mean, as we can see, there are secret compartments, because wherever Jules and Imogen are at the end of the episode, along with, that's also where Layla had gone. There's also, somehow, Sunil and Teddy were able to sneak up on Imogen. There was like, must be another door, secret passageway. We never got an answer to that, but they somehow snuck up on her when she was trying to break into Sunil's other safe. So there probably is a whole bunch of secret passages. So there might be a secret passage into a lot of people's rooms, including Danny's. So So my point is, once again, it's just we have not confirmed for sure that the bar cart was used for the murder. So I'm looking for other opportunity because it feels like they're harping on that so much, and it feels like it's too early to know exactly how the killer did it. I feel like that won't be a reveal until like later in the season, or maybe even to the final reveal where it's like, no, this is actually how the killer did it. I feel like it won't be revealed until the very, very end, but I feel like the cart isn't it. Maybe it was meant to be a red herring from the beginning. I mean, it's a great red herring because everyone's focused on that. Not unless it is straightforward of like, no, that is exactly how the killer did it. Not unless someone, it could be, that's also the complicated thing of, once again, this is my conspiracy theory stuff going in my head of like, not unless the killer planned on doing that, but someone else got to him instead. Like, what if there was another witness who was actually in the car who doesn't want to admit I was there because it would be me acknowledging I was actually trying to kill the guy or something like that. I mean, because just like Imogen can't admit to actually being in there because it makes her look like the suspect even though she didn't do anything. Just once again, throwing stuff to the wall to see what sticks. Circling back, Alexandra was kind of wondering if the person behind the cart might have been Lawrence. Because it's like, the only person who knows all the super PAC people that are involved is the priest dude. Because he's the one that sets all that up. And it's like, but she's like, why would Lawrence do that to me? I've cut like all the building deals or whatever he needs done. I've done like half of them. It's like, yeah, but half isn't good enough. But it's like, I'm not confirming that Lawrence is the one who did that. But she's like, yeah, sometimes he forgets that I'm the governor. And it's like, yeah, but sometimes you forget who put you in that place. And you're like, hey, yo, it's like, yeah, you might be the one with the stuff. You might be the one in this position and stuff. But never forget about the people who put you there, who basically have strings attached to you, who could be your undoing. Which is also interesting, too, considering like the fact is you were sleeping with the son and everything, and that's not the greatest thing for you, which he's kind of a hot mess in the aftermath of all that. Anna had this really interesting conversation with Lawrence, speaking of Lawrence, where basically it's like, hey, we're going to meet with the Chuns, but you're going to keep your mouth shut and let me take the charge, because that way it showcases, hey, you are the one in charge of all this, because she was stressing that point to Mama Chun, who was busy, well, Grandma Chun, who was busy watching what looked like a soap opera or whatever, which I don't know if that's going to, well, it feels very befitting, too, considering the twist of this episode where we find out Jules has a twin brother, because that was one of those, like, cliche, like, soap opera things she was watching where it looked like a twin brother kills another. It's like, oh, like, maybe like, oh, I stole your life and your wife type of situation, and he stabs the dude, which is interesting. Once again, interesting little things where it's like, Jules has a twin, who picked up a knife this episode, Layla, so it feels like there probably is a connection there. Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, well, we know Layla's paranoid, so not unless she hired Jules to be her, because he's on the ship personal security, but what if he's actually her personal security that's willing to do whatever he needs to kind of get the job done because he's a criminal, got a long laundry list of crimes, that maybe that makes him the perfect person, because maybe for Layla it's like I already know who you are well enough for that. I mean, not unless they have a deeper connection that goes back. I don't know, like maybe not unless he has like some connection to the accident. Not less the woman from the picture was also in the car with Layla, and we've only focused on Layla in the accident, but we haven't talked about anyone else. Like, they just make it seem like she was the only one in the vehicle, but there's a good chance maybe someone else was. Maybe this has to deal with what she was dealing with at the time, and maybe Jules and his brother and the woman in the picture, like I said, whether that's their sister or whether that's like a significant other of one of the twins. It seemed like it was, just because of how close one of them was to the other. It seemed like that seemed more like that's an SO picture, because especially because it was the way it was folded too, where she was going, so like obviously it seems like she's going in whoever she is, it seems like she's going, and they don't want to, Jules doesn't want a reminder of her, whatever the case may be. Like maybe this all connects in that capacity. Once again, throwing stuff to the wall, seeing what sticks. Either way, I kind of went on this whole tangent. I want to circle back to Lawrence and Anna, where Lawrence is basically saying it's because of Anna that the family's in the situation that it's in right now, because of her, because she's the one that's, you would expect Tripp would be the one that's had the bad dealings, but that's, I guess, minute in comparison to the deals Anna's made. But she also says like she's cleaning up her father's mess, so I guess she made a lot of bad business decisions trying to make up for something he did. So they were probably already in a shitty situation, and her attempts to try and rectify it kind of blew up in her face. So it's like, you wouldn't even have to worry about me like fastballing a lot of this stuff trying to get it done to cover from your fuck up in the first place. So it seems like I'm the only adult here, because she's like, I'm the only one focused. You're just doing whatever. Tripp is a hot mess, always has been. Mom's having an affair, so no one else but me seems to have their eye on the ball when it comes to this situation. Which is an interesting parallel too, considering like Imogen supposedly kind of lost her eye on the ball of this investigation, because Rufus calls her out later that she's so focused on trying to draw connections. Like an example would be like from episode 1, he made the point that Teddy is hiding stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean what she's hiding is relevant to this case. It could just be people have secrets and they're just trying to keep them secret, because Teddy did talk to her sister as well as the rest of the staff or her family, which there's a bit kind of issue there, because her sister, Winnie's giving her pushback in front of the staff, but she was like, oh, the staff, you mean our family? She's like, I'm glad you understand, because them being staff comes first and foremost before family, because she's the one taking a lot of chances, but when he looks at it, it's like, oh, that's you playing the martyr. It's like, I made a business for myself, I brought my family along, like, it can come off a little ungrateful. I could see where Winnie's coming from, though, where it's like, oh, you've always done that, acting like you're the martyr of the family, like, you put yourself in this position, you want to be treated like the martyr. But I think maybe from Teddy's perspective, is like, I'm just trying my best, and I might come off like I enjoy this or whatever, but I'm doing the best I can. I don't want to lose the business that I have, because they had referenced someone had basically slit their wrist or whatever that was part of the staff, and it's like, yeah, you kind of swept that under the rug, because it's like, if you're going above and beyond, because most likely it was one of these people that murdered that guy, but if it was one of us who committed the crime, like, would you really have our backs? Because Teddy's telling them, like, whatever small, whatever it is, anything on the shady side that you've done, tell me so I can lie and protect you. Because she is trying to protect her family, like, she's keeping a lot of stuff hush-hush. But it's like, well, is that just for your family, or is it self-preservation? In a lot of ways, I'm sure it's one and the same for her. But circling back to Imogen, she was meant to break into Sunnill's other safe, but like I brought up before, him and Teddy ended up circling back around, and obviously he likes Imogen. I think he only just found out this episode about her and Jules sleeping together. That kind of came up conversation-wise. So, yeah, I mean, I think it came up when, like, Rufus was in the room talking and stuff like that. Is when that came up, and he kind of looked at her way, and she kind of looked at his, like, right, kind of, even though, like, he does definitely like her, but I think he's not going to judge her for that or anything like that. But it's like, oh, so you slept with my security, too, so that's interesting. But either way, like, he likes her, and the point she made is, hey, the more you help me with this investigation, the quicker this could get wrapped up. Because it's like, right, don't necessarily want Interpol interfering, because they're going to run through, like, the official channels to get your paperwork and, like, look into this paperwork and stuff. But also, like, it's going to take a long time. Plus, I'm also going to be the number one suspect, so let's not do that. Plus, you help me. Like I said, this expedites this. You obviously want to do a lot because it's interesting, because Joel's the one that was suggesting, like, hey, why don't we dock? But now it seems like, well, maybe he only wanted to dock because with Interpol on board, he needs to get off this boat immediately before they find out the truth about whatever his circumstances are. But Sunil doesn't want to do that, because there's too much already on the line for this, and just to keep things going, he's going to keep the boat, going. But he understands where Imogen's coming from, especially when she acknowledges that looking into Keith's death may lead to Danny's death will give her answers she needs to potentially about her mom's murder. So, because it's like, right, the people that the Colliers are blackmailing might be Victor Sams, who is the guy who is the alias of the guy who killed my mom. Well, the person. Got him say that because you never know who the reveal might be, gender-wise. But either way, when it's all said and done, they're looking through it, and it confirms that yes, what the Chun said was right. The Colliers are not good financially. Like, it seems like 2 years ago they really hit windfall, and I guess that was one of the last things Anna did, or maybe when she took over. Maybe 2 years ago was the thing that Lawrence did that for the past 2 years Anna's been trying to fix. Maybe that's what that is. Either way, what they really ended up discovering was that there was this particular pigment that is a very specific blue pigment. What was it? I made a point to remember the name, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it's this very specific pigment that was used in clothes because it's cheap to use because it doesn't bleed. But the problem is it causes like cancer and dementia and other shit. So it was discontinued in like the late 80s. Like, what was it, 89? It might have been discontinued. But then the question then becomes like, well, it's amongst this files of stuff that maybe the Colliers are aware of. This in itself might be the screw up that Lawrence calls that maybe Anna had to cover up. That might be the direct correlation there, cutting corners, because it's a cheaper option, but it has more of an issue. So using something that has been used more, but as Rufus points out, there's no guarantee that the paperwork that says like it's been used more recently, we don't know because the date's been smudged, sorry. So we don't know if this page could be decades old or it could be more recent. So, but it's like, right, you're trying to connect a lot of stuff. That doesn't mean it's necessarily connected. Once again, it's like you're so busy trying to connect this back to your mom's murder that you don't think that you've lost track of all of this. Like and I love the cut back to episode 2 when she was kind of looking at everyone, because that was the last time she really took an honest look at everyone without the preconceived notion of, hey, this connects to my mom's case. I mean, she'd already had that information by then that this was correlated to her mom's case in some capacities. So because of what Rufus said, well, because of her own assumption, but also what Rufus said, because of what Danny said, and because of that look out towards the crowd in episode 2 was with that knowledge. So even then she already had, that was I guess you can make the argument the point of that scene wasn't to show like, oh, she had clear eyes before and now they've been compromised because of her preconceived notions. Like, no, her looking around at everyone was already with the preconceived notions that someone there has something to do with her mom's death. So I didn't talk about it, but it is interesting that he had some drinks ordered in this episode. I don't think he drank anything. At one point, he made sure to get water because Hilde had suggested it. Because, well, he had been an excessive drinker for a good chunk of time, but he hasn't had a drink since Danny was found. So he wants to make sure he's on all his, like he's focused in. Granted, he's already kind of getting the shakes. So Hilde was like, yeah, drink some water, which we saw him get one earlier in the episode. And later on, he got a drink, but that was just because that was Imogen's way of getting a message to him about like what they found in the safe and the paperwork and stuff. So some very, very interesting developments. I'm curious to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us with the Jules stuff, as that was kind of like the stinger at the end, as well as all this other stuff, because we had Anna with all the past records and stuff of the Collier mill business and stuff, meeting with Eleanor, but she's the only one there because she can't really bring anyone else because her brother probably is a mess. So she's like, you know what, screw it, I'm not going to involve him. Dad, I want you to shut up and not be involved anyway. And he's probably like, well, if you don't want me to talk, I just won't be there. Can't be around her mom right now because that's awkward as hell. So she has to handle things on her own because, as she said, I'm kind of the only adult. So we shall see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. I thought this show came out on Wednesdays. It comes out on Tuesdays. I don't know why I thought Wednesdays. But yeah, so I'm recording this late. So like the 4th episode's already out. So hopefully I can get to it today. We'll see. But either way, I'm excited to see where episode 4 takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.